Welcome to Relation Tales. Please like this video and subscribe Relation Tales. We're grateful for each and every one of you. Let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let's begin. People think betrayal shows up with fireworks, with screaming matches or broken plates. But in reality, it arrives quietly, through a shift in tone, a hesitation in someone's voice, a smile that ends too early. That's how it started with my wife, Jenna Reynolds, the woman I trusted for 7 years, the woman who used to trace patterns on my hand every morning as if she couldn't believe I was real. Lately, though, the patterns had stopped. At first, I blamed stress. Jenna had always been passionate about coaching at the community college. Practices ran late. Tournaments were coming up. She claimed her players needed extra drills, extra support, extra time. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to be the supportive husband I always prided myself on being. But something about her recent behavior felt off. Too many late-night showers. Too many dead batteries. Too many excuses that felt copy-pasted. I tried brushing it off. I really did. But ignoring instincts is like trying to hold your breath underwater. You can force it for a while before your lungs scream for honesty. Then came the shift in how she looked at me. Like she was carrying a secret heavy enough to crush us both. One evening, while she was at practice, I found myself pacing around the dining room, staring at the empty chair she normally filled with her laughter, her stories, her warmth. Our routines were drifting farther apart, and I couldn't shake the fear that someone else had stepped into the space I used to hold. There were signs, small ones at first. Her perfume changed. Her phone never left her hand. She started smiling at random texts she tried to hide from me. And romantic intimacy? It didn't disappear, but it shifted. Not colder, just distracted. Like her thoughts were somewhere else. With someone else. The guilt of doubting her ate at me. I wasn't the jealous type. I never checked her phone. I never questioned her friendships. But trust doesn't erode all at once. It crumbles slowly, piece by piece, until you finally look down and realize you're standing in ruins. The night everything cracked open wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It wasn't anything you'd expect betrayal to look like. Jenna came home humming, like she'd had the best evening of her life. Her hair was a little messy, her shirt slightly wrinkled, her cheeks a little too flushed for someone who had supposedly been standing in a gym for hours. She walked past me with a quick kiss on the cheek, one that didn't land fully, and said she was exhausted. But the smile she tried hiding told a different story. I watched her climb the stairs, and a weight settled in my chest. The kind that makes your breath shaky and your thoughts restless. Something wasn't adding up. Still, I tried to let it go. Until the next day, when I saw the first real sign, the one that sent my heartbeat into a sprint and made my stomach turn. It was innocent looking, a photo notification on her smartwatch she left charging on the counter. A picture sent from someone she claimed she barely knew. Someone who definitely shouldn't have been sending her anything outside of team updates. And the photo. Jenna smiling inside a car I didn't recognize with a man I'd never seen before. Not close, but close enough. The kind of closeness that isn't accidental. My throat tightened. My palms felt suddenly cold. I stared at that screen for a full minute, unable to move, unable to breathe. That was the moment everything in my life tilted just a little off-center. That was the moment suspicion turned into something sharper. And that was the moment I decided. If there was a truth hiding in the shadows, I would drag it into the light myself, no matter how dark it was. The next morning, I woke with a knot in my chest that refused to loosen. I kept replaying that photo on Jenna's smartwatch, her sitting too comfortably inside a car I didn't recognize, smiling in a way I hadn't seen in months. The expression wasn't forced or polite. It was warm, familiar, intimate. And the man beside her, Marcus Hayes, wasn't even looking at the camera. He was looking at her. That alone burned. But what lodged itself in my chest like a splinter was the realization that she hadn't mentioned him in weeks. Not once. She used to talk about every assistant coach, every player, every meeting. Yet Marcus? Silence. Complete silence. I tried to stay calm as Jenna walked into the kitchen that morning, hair damp from the shower, humming softly like nothing in her world was heavy enough to hide. She kissed my temple, but it felt rehearsed, like something she did out of obligation, not affection. "You okay?" she asked, sipping her coffee. "Yeah, I lied. Just tired." She gave a small smile, the kind that never reached her eyes these days, then grabbed her gym bag and headed out the door. I stood there, staring at the empty space she left, feeling the distance between us stretch wider than ever. Something wasn't right, and pretending otherwise was slowly tearing me apart. I sat down at the table and opened my laptop, hands trembling a little, not from anger but from the fear of what I might find. I typed in Marcus Hayes volleyball coach and hit search. There he was, assistant coach, married, 2 daughters, active on the department's social pages, a man with a family. And suddenly, a thought hit me. If he was married, then maybe someone else had noticed something too. Maybe I wasn't the only one who felt something was off. I clicked on a link to one of the team event photos and saw her, Claire Hayes, his wife. She looked warm, elegant, the kind of woman who carried quiet confidence in every expression. She was smiling, but it was a gentle smile, the type that felt honest, unlike the one Jenna had been forcing lately. My pulse kicked. Maybe, just maybe, Claire deserved answers too. But part of me hesitated. What if I was wrong? What if I was reading too much into a single photo? What if I shattered someone else's peace over a misunderstanding? Still, the uneasy feeling wouldn't let go. The truth was circling me like a storm, too close to ignore. I got dressed, grabbed my car keys, and headed toward the gym campus. I didn't have a plan, just a sense that I needed to be where her lies lived. The drive felt longer than it actually was, every red light giving me too much time to think, to worry, to gather the courage I wasn't sure I even had. When I arrived, the parking lot was mostly empty. A few cars scattered. The echo of bouncing volleyballs came from inside the gym. I didn't go in. Instead, I leaned against my car and waited, the cold air prickling my skin. After 20 minutes, I saw her, Claire. She stepped out of a dark blue SUV, dressed in a simple sweater and jeans, holding a travel mug. She looked tired, like someone who'd been carrying a weight she hadn't told anyone about. My heart pounded. This was the moment. This was the line I couldn't uncross. I walked toward her slowly, trying not to seem intrusive or threatening. "Excuse me," I said softly. She turned, surprised but polite. "Yes. My name is Aaron. Aaron Miles. I'm Jenna Reynolds' husband." Her expression shifted, not dramatically but subtly. A small tightening around her eyes. A slight hesitation, almost like she knew something might be coming. "I know who you are," she said gently. "Jenna talks about you sometimes." I swallowed hard. "Can we talk for a minute? It's important." There was a pause. A long, heavy one. But then she nodded. We sat on a bench near the walkway, a faint breeze rustling the nearby trees. I took a breath, steadying myself. What I was about to say wasn't something any spouse should have to hear. "I'm not here to accuse," I began. "I'm not here to start a fight. I'm here because something doesn't feel right. And yesterday I saw something that made me think you deserve to know." Her fingers tightened around her mug. "Is this about Marcus?" The directness hit me like a slap. "You've noticed things too?" She laughed softly, but it wasn't happy. It was hollow. "Aaron, I've known for months that something in my marriage didn't add up. Late nights, strange excuses, messages he'd delete. But every time I asked, he'd smile and say I was overthinking." Her voice broke just a little, and I felt a pressure in my chest. Betrayal wasn't just painful, it was humiliating. "I found a picture," I said, "on Jenna's smartwatch. They were together, in his car, and the expression she had." I trailed off. Claire exhaled shakily. "I've seen similar things. Nothing too obvious, nothing you could confront someone with. But if you look close enough, the truth starts to show." We sat in silence for a moment, two strangers bonded by the same wound. "I think we need to know how far this goes," she whispered. I nodded. "I agree. And I'm done guessing." Claire looked at me, then really looked at me. And in her eyes, I saw something I hadn't felt in weeks. Clarity. Determination. The kind that comes when your world cracks open, and you finally decide you won't be played for a fool. "Whatever we find," she said, "we face it together." Her words settled into my bones like a promise. I didn't know it yet, but that moment, sitting with Claire on a cold bench outside the gym, was the beginning of everything. The beginning of truth. The beginning of unraveling lies. And eventually, the beginning of the revenge that would make Jenna wish she'd never underestimated me. The next 72 hours felt like holding my breath under deep water. Everything heavy, everything silent, everything tightening around my ribs. Claire and I didn't jump into confrontation right away. We didn't storm into the gym or fire off accusations. Instead, we moved with caution, with intention, with the quiet precision of two people who'd been lied to one time too many. We agreed to gather clarity, not chaos. I started by studying Jenna's new routines. The late practices, the extended team meetings, the sudden need to help players with extra drills at odd hours. I watched the patterns like someone solving a puzzle, carefully, quietly, piece by painful piece. Claire did the same with Marcus. The more we watched, the more the pieces lined up. On Tuesday, Jenna left the house in a rush, claiming she was meeting a player for a personal check-in. But twice in the last month she'd made the same excuse, and now it didn't feel like coincidence. I waited 10 minutes after she drove off, then got in my truck and followed at a distance, my heartbeat loud enough to drown out my engine. She didn't drive toward campus. She didn't drive toward the student apartments. She drove toward a residential neighborhood, the same one her location showed that night. She pulled into a driveway belonging to Marcus and Claire. Except Claire wasn't home, and Jenna walked into that house like she had every right in the world to be there. My stomach dropped. Everything inside me tightened. My knuckles went white around the steering wheel. Part of me wanted to jump out of the truck, walk up to that door, and end the lie right then and there. But another part, the part that still had clarity, held me in place. Not yet. Not without proof. Not without control. I pulled away before she could notice me and parked down the street. My whole body was shaking, not from rage, but from the confirmation that the woman I loved had been walking into someone else's home comfortably, confidently, repeatedly. I texted Claire, "She's at your house." Her response came immediately. "Marcus left 20 minutes ago. Did they arrive together?" "No." But she walked in like she belonged there. A long pause. Then, "I'm coming home early." But I knew we weren't ready to confront them yet. Not without something undeniable. I drove back home before Jenna returned. When she walked through the door later with that tired but glowing expression, my heart almost gave out. "How was the meeting?" I asked, as casually as I could manage. She smiled, a strange, distant smile. "Exhausting, honestly. Players can be a lot. Players. Not a married coworker. Not his house. Not a lie wrapped in routine." I nodded slowly, pretending to believe her, pretending I wasn't replaying the sight of her walking into someone else's home. That night, while she showered, I stared at myself in our bathroom mirror. My reflection looked tired, worn, betrayed. But beneath all that, I saw something else. Something sharper. Something rising. Resolve. I refused to be blindsided ever again. The next day, Claire and I met at a coffee shop, sitting in a quiet corner away from curious eyes. She looked pale, drained, but determined. "I don't want guesswork," she whispered, hands trembling around her cup. "I want the truth. All of it." "So do I said. We formed a plan. Not impulsive, not reckless, but deliberate and precise. We agreed to check patterns, confirm timelines, gather undeniable contradictions between what our spouses claimed and what they actually did. Claire knew Marcus' schedule better than anyone. I knew Jenna's habits. Together, we compared notes. Every lie began revealing itself. Jenna claimed she stayed late after practice on Monday. Marcus left early that day, and they both went off the grid for the same 2-hour window. Jenna said she was helping a player with trouble at home last Thursday. Marcus didn't come home until midnight, claiming a team dinner. Jenna said she was running drills before a weekend game. Marcus' car was seen parked at a lake 30 minutes from town. Every detail twisted deeper into our chests. Every revelation stripped another layer of trust. At one point, Claire covered her face with her hands and let out a shaky breath. "I feel like I don't know the man I married." I understood her pain too well. I feel like I don't know my wife. We sat there for a long moment, two hurting hearts trying to steady themselves. Eventually, I said what neither of us wanted to say aloud. "We need one moment. One truth that can't be denied." Claire nodded. "A confrontation they can't talk their way out of." We didn't want drama. We didn't want yelling. We wanted clarity and closure. That afternoon, Claire texted, "He just said he's dropping teammates home." Jenna said the same. I checked my phone. A message from Jenna. "Practice ran late. Heading home soon. Don't wait up. I'm starving." Lies. Lies wrapped in comfort. Lies delivered with confidence. My pulse raced. Claire messaged again. Let's do it tonight. I stared at the screen, feeling the weight of everything. The humiliation, the hurt, the months of being lied to, collecting in my chest. Tonight, everything would be revealed. Tonight, the truth would be dragged into the light. Tonight, the curtain would finally drop on their performance. I texted Claire one word back. Ready. Neither of us knew how intense that night would get, or how much our spouses would regret underestimating us. But one thing was certain. Nothing would ever be the same again. I don't think I'll ever forget the sound of my own heartbeat that night. Slow, heavy, echoing through my ribs as if warning me that my life was about to split into two versions. The man I'd been before, and the man I was about to become. Claire and I met at her house 30 minutes before our spouses claimed they'd head home after dropping off teammates. Her living room felt too quiet, almost painfully clean, like a place where honesty had been missing for a long time. We sat across from each other, both nervous, both exhausted, both done pretending everything was fine. You sure you're ready? Claire asked. More than ready, I said, and I meant it. I was no longer scared of the truth. I was starting for it. Claire placed her phone on the table, screen lit with a shared location app she'd enabled weeks ago. Marcus, that was moving toward the neighborhood. A second later, my phone buzzed. Jen, as I was following the same path. My hands tightened. This was it. The moment the mask would fall. We didn't hide behind doors. We didn't dim the lights. We didn't ambush. We simply sat, calmly, almost peacefully, side by side on Claire's couch, waiting like two people finally ready to stop being lied to. The footsteps approached. Keys jingled. A car door shut. Two people laughing, lightly, comfortably, intimately. A hollow laugh. A practiced laugh. A laugh I used to believe. The front door opened. Jenna walked in first, mid-sentence, brushing wind-blown strands of hair from her face, and then she froze. She didn't gasp. She didn't scream. Her entire body simply stopped. Her eyes darted from me to Claire, then back to me. Her knees buckled slightly, and her hand instinctively reached for the wall like gravity had suddenly doubled. Aaron, she whispered, her voice cracking. What are you doing here? Behind her, Marcus stepped in and nearly dropped his keys. Color drained from his face like someone had pulled a plug. Claire's voice was calm but firm. We thought you two might want to explain why your stories keep falling apart. Jenna swallowed hard. It's not what it looks like. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the words were so predictable, so rehearsed, so insulting that they barely held meaning anymore. Jenna, I said quietly, I saw you walk into this house 3 days ago. Alone. No teammates. No emergencies. Her face paled. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Her eyes flicked toward Marcus like she was hoping for a script to follow. But he was frozen too. Pale. Breathing fast. Sweating. Claire's voice broke the silence. We both gave you trust. And you both used it to build excuses. She wasn't yelling. She wasn't shaking. She was simply done. Jenna stepped toward me, tears forming. Aaron, please let me explain. I made mistakes, but it's not what you think. Then tell me, I said, right now. Tell me where you were. Tell me why you lied. Tell me why your stories never matched. Tell me why I had to team up with a stranger to understand my own marriage. Her mouth trembled, but there was no answer. Because the truth was standing behind her, silent and terrified. Marcus finally spoke, barely above a whisper. It wasn't supposed to get this far. Claire let out a shaky breath, one that sounded like a final goodbye. I looked at Jenna, and in that moment, something inside me shifted. The heartbreak didn't vanish, but its weight changed. It no longer felt like something crushing me. It felt like something pushing me forward. Jenna, I said softly, I'm not yelling. I'm not fighting. I'm not begging for the truth anymore. I already have it. Aaron, please. I'm done. I whispered. I'm walking away with dignity. Something you should have protected too. Her tears spilled over, but I didn't move to comfort her. Not this time. Not after months of being kept in the dark. Claire stood as well, wiping her face. Both of you will hear from us. Separately. And clearly. There was no screaming. No dramatic chaos. Just clarity. Sharp, painful, undeniable. Jenna reached for me one last time, but I stepped back. That was my revenge. Not rage. Not destruction. but walking away with the truth clear, my dignity intact, and her lies collapsing behind me like a structure built on sand. As I left the house and the cool night air hit my face, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. My strength returning. The betrayal didn't define me, but my response to it did. And for the first time in a long time, I felt free.